Okay, so we'll go through them, that's fine, all of them apparently. Okay, that's fine. I would like to be able to give you like an alternate, I may have to kind of search a little bit and try to find maybe an alternate assignment, or maybe we'll add on to it another day, but yeah, we'll see. Maybe we'll redo chunking tomorrow or something.
Yeah.
Okay. Just because I don't have that ready here.
No, just do chunky for like the next 2 weeks.
2 weeks. I don't really need 2 weeks of chunking.
Next month.
Yeah.
Yeah, next month. Yeah, next month.
And next.
Not just to next month.
Yeah.
Okay.
You guys are so funny.
I know. Gosh. Okay. So. All right. Now, on one end, or any of these that we have to do chunking, if you didn't realize what the chunk was, it made it tough. So, in this case, it would be best if we did the 8 to the x power as our chunk. Now, how you decide that is, because I see an 8 to the x power in both parts. However, you might look at this one and say, well, that's 8 to the 2x. But in order to make it 2x from x, you're just squaring it. So I don't know if you just kind of noticing something like that. I should have done one with you like that, but obviously I did some like the other examples and that didn't seem to pan out very well. So our chunk this time, I'm going to have a u be 8 to the x power.
Wait, just 8 to the x power, not 4 times 8 to the x power?
Is it supposed to be 4 times? I think it's supposed to, I think I could just do, I just did 8 to the x. But I think I'll just do 8 to the x. But now that I think about that, I'm trying to think if it makes, no, because I need to square it, so no, I don't think that'll work. So this will become 4u to the second, because if I square u, that's going to become 8 to the 2x. I'm just raising them both to the same power. Oops, minus 1. Now this type of factoring might have been a type of factoring, we're actually reviewing this today, so maybe that was a type of factoring that you forgot how to do. We want to bring these all over to the left side here. So we're bringing it all over to the left side. Cash had asked about why I didn't use 4, 8 to the x power, and just making sure that's clear, is because I want these to look as much alike as, or I want them to be identical. So if I squared it, then the 4 would get a little bit dicey and become like a 16, and that's not what I want. So I need to factor this. However, it's possible that you might have forgotten how to factor something when there's a number in front of that first term. So we want to factor this into 2 sets of parentheses. This one's probably easiest to do by guessing and checking because there's not that many combinations that work. Anyone remember how to factor something like this? No? Well, I'll show you guys kind of a shorter way to do it, like just guessing and checking. I'll remind you guys of how I taught you how to do it if you guys did Algebra 2 with me. Before u to the second, I'm assuming it's going to just be 2u and 2u. We'll try this and see if it works. To get 1, it's going to be 1 and 1, but where does the negative come from? How can I get 1 using negatives? Negative times a negative. So if I try this, 2u minus 1 times 2u minus 1. We just want to FOIL to check and make sure this works. This would be 4u to the second. This would be a negative 2u. This would be a negative 2u, which is where that negative 4u comes from. And then 1 times 1. So if you guys forgot how to factor, obviously, if you didn't even get to this part, this doesn't even really apply. But now at this point, we're going to set each of these equal to 0, but there's only one of them. So I'm going to say 2u minus 1 equals 0. So I'm moving the 1 over, so 2u equals 1, so u ends up being a half. However, we're not done yet, because that's what u is. So we have to go back and figure out what the x would be. So we have to put this back in here. When I'm solving for an exponent, I switch it to a logarithm. So this would be log base 8 of 1/2 will give me my x. And that should give me, I believe it's 2/3 or something like that. 0.6 repeating, or no, it's negative 0.3 repeating. Like I said, I don't have a new assignment worked out already for this, so I'll probably end up having to push this till tomorrow. We are supposed to probably do new notes today. Maybe we can do a day to review both things tomorrow. Okay. A little bit tricky. We'll do another warm-up question where you have to factor like this today. All right, let's look at number 2. Number 2 is more similar to one I had given you guys in our notes. So this is really similar to, I believe, there was like an M example in our notes. So all right, so again, I want to figure out what chunk makes sense. So what I want to do is make them look alike. So moving this over, so like now they're identical, so my chunk is going to be 2d minus 5. So what I'm solving here then is u to the 3rd equals u. So we're going to move everything over to one side. Oops. Sorry. I'm going to factor out a u here. Now you could solve it this way, or you could factor further. I don't know which way you guys prefer. Are you guys okay with solving right now?
Yep.
So u could equal 0, or u squared minus 1 could also equal 0. So move the 1 over, so u squared could equal 1, so take the square root. So u could either equal positive or negative 1. So we get 3 answers for our u. But that's not all we have to do, because these are the answers for u. Then we have to take all of those and put them back in here to figure out what d actually is. So the u is just a replacement for right now. So now I'm going to put that in. So I'm going to have 0, whoops, 2d minus 5, 1 equals 2d minus 5, and then negative 1 equals 2d minus 5. So I have essentially 3 equations to solve that could give me all my outcomes here. So d is 5 over 2. Move this one over. This one's going to be 3. So d is also 3. And then I believe this one's going to be d is 2. So we get 3 answers there. So make sure you guys are writing this down. I mean, we need to practice this, and so again, like I said, I don't have something made for you guys today, but that you'd be able to go back and like redo this if I had a problem similar to this one. All right, number 6. number 6 just wants you to find the zeros, but it's already factored for you. So 6 is actually a lot easier than I think you realize. They want us to find the zeros, and guess what's...
No, it was 12 that I wrote up there anyways.
Oh, but we're gonna do 6, okay? So they want us to find the zeros. That's such that zero product property. This is just saying, and maybe I didn't use this term with you guys, that just means find all the places where this could equal 0. So we're just finding out that x could be 0, x plus 1 could be 0, and x plus 2 could be 0, and then I just solve all 3 of those. So if it's already factored for me, it's really easy to find those zeros. And that's gonna be good for what we're doing today. We're gonna be doing some solving with this as well. So hopefully today's will help you guys with factoring some of these. All right, so number 12 is our log one that we need to use chunking for. Again, we did one similar to this in our notes, but obviously solving with logs and factoring, and there's a whole lot going on there. So it's log base 2 of x is our Now they do give you the clue to use log base 2 of x as your chunk. So they suggest that this is your chunk. So they try to help you at that. So that means anywhere you see the log base 2 of x, you're going to write a u instead. So once I get there, now I need to solve this. I need to solve like as if I was solving for u using factoring. So we're going to put this 16 back over. I want it to equal 0. So I get u squared minus 10u plus 16 equals 0. So we want to factor this. Since I know it's u squared, it has to be u and u. I want to multiply to get 16, but add to get negative 10. Negative 2, negative 8. We'll multiply to give me a positive 16, but when they add, they give me negative 10. So I have my 2 equations that could equal 0. So I find out u could be 2 or u could be 8. But that's not our answer. We're not done yet. So if you stop there, you're so close. You just, well, this one's probably a little bit tougher because we're solving a logarithm. So this is saying 8 could equal log base 2 of x, or 2 could equal log base 2 of x. So we're putting the u's back in now. Now we're solving with logs. We'd rather switch that back to exponential form. So our base is 2. The exponent would be 8. Base would be 2. Exponent would be 2. So we're able to solve our for our 2x's now. I'm hoping it looks better once I remind you guys. Like I said, we did this together, but obviously we did just one, so. Alright, so 2 to the 8th power and 2 to the 2nd is our 2 answers. Okay? Hopefully that looked a little bit better that way. All right, number 13, 14, and 15, these all were some, well, 13 and 15 are both factoring problems as well. 14, I think, is a log we want to switch it to. So let's go to 13. Oh, this is another one of the type of factoring that we need to review probably a little bit more. So I want this to equal 0 first. So I'm going to move the 2 over. So we have to think about factoring this one. The way we would have factored, and this is where this one's a little bit trickier, is if I asked you guys to factor something x minus 2. And this might be something you guys forgot how to factor. You can guess and check. Otherwise, when I taught you guys, I probably taught you with this x thing. Where I multiply these two terms together. So that goes on top. And then on the bottom, that's going to tell me how to split those middle two terms up. So I want to multiply to -4 but add to +3. Multiply to -4, add to +3. 4 and -1. Okay. Now what we do with that, that's what we do to split these middle two terms up. And so I'm going to use it on this t squared instead of just the x up there. So, and we'll review this again in a minute. So the first term stays the same, but the next one I'm just going to do 4t, but I'm going to do squared because that's what this one's saying. And then minus 1t squared, again because 4 minus 1 will give me 3, minus 2. And so when we go to factor this, now we do grouping. So out of these first two, I can take out a 2t squared. And be left with just t squared. Out of this, I can take out a 2. Out of here, I can take out a -1. And now I have the same thing twice. But again, we'll review that type of factoring. I should have reviewed that a little bit more with you guys last time. Sorry, or I didn't at all. We just kind of did guess and check with that. Now I'm ready to solve each of those. So 2t squared minus 1 equals 0, and t squared plus 2 equals 0. Strange thing is, this one actually won't give us an answer that we know how to deal with right now. So if I do minus 2, t squared equals -2. If you try to take the square root of a negative, this will give me an imaginary solution. It'll say not a real solution. So that one I can get rid of. We'll cross it out. This one, I go to move this over. Then I go to take the square root of that. Square root of 1/2, we can just call that plus or minus the square root of 1/2. So it'd be like square root of 1 over square root of 2, so 1 over the square root of 2. And that's our t. So I ended up simplifying the radical. I made it square root of 2 over 2, but a couple more here. Number 14. So this is one I would switch it back to log form. So I don't like this form, so I'm going to make this log base 2 of 10 is going to equal that exponent. Now the strange part about this is when you do log base 2 of 10, it's not a very nice number, and so it makes you think that maybe you're doing something wrong. But even if that were some crazy decimal, I still know how to solve an equation where there's a number equaling 2x minus 1. So being able to make this conversion, kind of from a last chapter. I need to grab my calculator because I don't know what the log base 2 of 10 is off the top of my head. Remember, in order to put that into your calculator, you just basically do log of 10 and then divide it by the log of 2. So I got like 3.322. So not a great number, but still something I can solve. I can move this 1 over. And then I'm just going to divide by 2. And I get like 2.16. Alright, and then number 15, again, they want to use chunking there. So like I guess on this one, I wouldn't have used chunking. I don't really know where the chunking would be involved there, but in number 15, oops, minus 3. So again, realizing there's something that I used twice, that we're going to call that our chunk. So my chunk is going to be that fraction. Alright, but again, this requires that type of factoring that maybe you forgot how to do. Maybe sometimes just assuming you remember too much. I like I said, I should have reviewed with you, but at the same time, it is something I know you learned before. Now I'm going to move the 3u over because I don't really like that it's negative. I like when that first term is positive. Now when you factor something like this, you can use guess and check. Again, when I taught it to you guys, I always use this, but it's kind of up to you guys, whatever you're comfortable with. So in this case, like I do 3 times negative 22, so that's a negative 66, and I want to add to get 5. So I want to multiply to get negative 66, but add to get 5. So 6 times 11 gives me 66. So if I have a positive 11u and a negative 6u, that's going to be how I'll split this up. Again, you can do this by guessing and checking, but I typically think this is a little bit easier just because I know it, not like doing trial and error kind of as I do this. So I take out a u. Take out a negative 2. So I have the same thing twice, the 3u plus 11, and then u minus 2. So that'll allow me to solve for my u, and then once I know u, I'm going to put it back into that little purple one up there. So u is 2. U is also a negative 11 over 3. But I still need to put those back in to figure out like my final answer here. So I'm just going to erase that if that's okay. So 2, so 2 equals 3n plus 5 over 4. Multiply each side by 8. Or not by 8, sorry, by 4 to get 8. Move this 5 over. And then divide by 3. So n ends up being 1. So answers, and I put it back in up here. Multiply each side by 4. Now I'm going to move the rest over here. So move that 5 over. Negative 15, so it was negative 59 over 3, I think. And then I just have to divide by 3. Negative 59 over 9, yeah. Probably just work with decimals at that point. Whatever negative 59 over 9 is. Negative 6.5 repeating. The final answer there. So apparently that was rough. All right. Yes. Yes. All right. Let me. Like I said, I have to come up